Hello and warm welcome to SAP on Azure episode 128. Today is January 26th, and today with Robert and Holger, we will talk anything about SAP on Azure. We are really privileged to have today Cameron again. We had a Cameron few episodes back. We talk about the SAP on Azure best practices, and with Oracle. It came a question from a community in the chat actually asking about the demo, how to install and configure the ASM. And here what you see is Cameron wrote a deep dive blog, how to do it, and we will go with him in deep dive detail in the demo, how to install it. I think it's a huge benefit. I was testing by myself, I almost finished. I mean, if I would need to figure it out this by myself, I think it will take me a month or even longer. So I see a huge benefit. But before we start, I will hand over to the Cameron. So Cameron, can you please introduce yourselves once again for the folks that did not see you before? Who are you? What are you doing?
Cameron Gardiner. I've been at Microsoft, I think 17 years now. I'm based in the Azure Compute development team working on SAP topics. And I put this blog together last year, I think November last year, and several of you have asked to have a live demo. So first thing, please read the blog before continuing if you've not already done so. ASM is really important. There are huge advantages for our Oracle customers. Oracle was for many years a leading database for SAP installs. Many large customers were on Oracle, and I want to see Oracle running on SAP as a first-class experience for all customers, small, medium, and large. Key part of that is Oracle's storage mechanism. There are so many advantages, and we actually have some words here from the head of SAP development at Oracle, Jan Klockers. The administrative performance and availability advantages of ASM in and of itself justify moving to ASM. Really, there's no reason not to do this. They're all upsides and no downsides. I did another blog. This was Woolworths in Australia. They moved their large retail system from LVM to ASM, and that has gone extremely successfully. So we'll cover it a little later if we have time, but just one advantage of ASM versus LVM for those people who want to put something specific on it. If you want to expand disk space with LVM, if you have a stripe set of, say, 6 disks and you want to add a 7th, that will not be balanced. You'll get an unbalanced distribution across those disks. With ASM will auto-balance that over time. So that there are many other advantages I could go into, but if you want one, that one in and of itself, I think justifies doing this.
Yeah. So basically, for me, it was maybe interesting. I mean, we're using block-based devices like manage this. We are striping them to get more space and performance. Typically in Linux, LVM, Logical Volume Manager, will be used, handled by the operating system. But here, actually, with ASM, Automatic Storage Management, the Oracle itself, it's managing the block-based devices, and they're not visible through the operating system, and it's doing in a good way, right, with those rebalancing stuff. So was for me one bigger highlight, so to say, to understand it. Right?
Yes, there are other ones, like other advantages, like support. We want to have an entirely Oracle-centric solution. So we have Oracle Linux, the Oracle Database, with the Oracle storage solution running under it. We've tested specific releases and specific configurations. And that's what's in the blog. You know, there's certain options with ASM, and what we've done is document the ones that we've tested and proven, and we know that those work with other features such as Azure Backup. Azure Backup supports ASM. So I think we should jump into installing, and then as we go along, we can talk more about the details. I think most people who watch this channel are familiar with Azure and Azure VMs, so I won't go into the details of the virtual machine we have here. There's some details about the installation directories, and for people who are specifically Oracle DBAs and not so familiar with SAP, they may be surprised by a few things, such as the same owner for both the grid and DBMS instance. It's a little unusual in the Oracle world, but this is the configuration for SAP, and I would highly recommend staying with what is documented. If you deviated from this, there could be problems when you do upgrades or support packs or migrations. It's just better to stick with the SAP guidance here for SAP systems. Very brief discussion on the disk layout. We're going to have a boot disk, some disks for software, and then for ASM we're going to have 4 disks for data, 2 disks for OLog, and then a disk for recovery and archive. So why don't we get started? I wrote this blog so that you should be able to just copy and paste into here.
So on virtual machine, just disk are attached. We have a software deployed, copied, and nothing else, right? So that's the starting point.
Correct. Yes, this is a blank VM, and I just have to remind myself what the host name is. This is it here, isn't it?
Yeah, C1-DB-3. Yeah.
So just while I'm here, what this is the Oracle Linux Cockpit, which for some of you, I think you'll find it quite useful. I won't spend too much time here, but you'll get an overview of your sort of networking and storage. So for some of you prefer GUIs and some of you prefer command line, Oracle Linux gives you both options. We'll just have a brief look while we're here. You can see we're on an Azure VM with 64 CPUs, I think.
Cool.
And a bit of information about the memory here. Back to our okay, and we either need to configure exceptions for SWPM and SAP, or we just turn off the firewall. I'm not super in favor of turning off the firewall. If this wasn't a demo, I would go through and configure those exceptions. Okay, changing our parameters. So if anyone has any enhancements they want to see in the blog, any improvements, they're more than welcome to put some comments, and I can make a version 2.
Those parameters are special recommendation for SAP or usual somehow parameters what everyone should do in this kind of configuration?
pretty much the usual defaults for.
Okay.
I mean, you could argue some of the parameters be increased or decreased here and there, but this is what I find works. SE Linux. Let me set that to disabled. The default setting does actually work. Generally recommend disabled.
I think is it SE Linux, not SE Linux type in the middle. I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Yeah,
You're right. Oh, good.
okay.
So huge pages. There's quite a bit of configuration to set for huge pages, and is probably another topic in itself. I think the steps in the blog are probably adequate enough. We want to focus more on ASM topics here rather than setting huge pages. Definitely for any SAP on Oracle system, you have to be using huge pages, small, medium, or large. You must set this. I just don't think we've got time to cover this topic in the video.
But it can be done afterwards, in principle, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oracle will start up for sure. So number 6, we already have SU Doer access on the user account that I'm using, so no need to change anything here. Now, the next step, we have a new provisioning method in Azure with cloud in it. And we generally don't want to use that in this case. So we'll change that to WA agent. It's a longer discussion why we want to use.
Basically, the Azure agent, it's in this case configuring the page file when it's restarted, so to say, right?
And just a note about some of the values here. Some of the people who watch this channel will be familiar with SDAF, which is the automatic deployment framework for SAP on Azure. So what I did when building this blog, I worked with our colleague Vamshi to make sure that the values that are in my blog are aligned with what he's putting into his Terraform and Ansible scripts, so that, for example, when you run the quality check tool, you should be finding that whether you built the system by hand using the blog or used SDAF, you should be arriving at the same location.
Right. One question, Cameron, only on this value of 20,048, maybe you would need a bit more because VM it's bigger. SAPInst will probably complain, so I'm just wondering, do you want to give more? Or you can do it later as well, yeah.
I think I set 20 gigabytes. Let's double check.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20 gigabytes, which should be enough.
Let's do it,
There's a Moss article that talks about what you need for Oracle, but it pays to remember that Oracle may not be the only thing on this virtual machine. In some cases, there might be an ASCS, there might be monitoring software, there might be backup software, and all of these to some degree you need to take into account. And I would say 20480 is a fairly safe number. Okay, one of the very important tasks when we install Oracle is to put on very large number of packages. You can see quite a few, and this actually takes a reasonable amount of time. So we'll kick that off, and at the end of this, the VM will reboot.
Okay.
So we're back after patching. Those who are not so familiar with running Oracle, this package here is very important. This pre-creates users, and those users and a whole pile of dependencies for Oracle have been set up. Okay, next is tuned. You see we have a whole pile of different profiles, but the ones that I've been recommended are these ones. So Oracle, throughput performance, and virtual guest are what I've been told we should use. Okay, now we, Goran, I think you already created a user SAP software.
This is already there, yeah.
And did you already create a user SAP trans?
Probably not, or I did. Okay, I'm not sure. I can check it.
Let's
We
see.
can just run it, right?
Yeah, right. That
Yeah.
wouldn't hurt. Yeah, even if it's there.
So we take a look at. I think you've already set up the disks to some extent, but maybe we can just discuss what we would normally do here.
It's just one block-based device and then split it. Yeah. So SDI device. Yeah. So
just a note for those who are following the procedure. So sometimes you'll see that SDA is used for the boot disk, and sometimes it's either the very first or the very last, and it seems to move around more or less randomly. So I just put the lsblk command in, so that in this case I give the example of SDA, but you would just use whichever disk was appropriate. In this case, Goran's used SDI, which is perfectly valid to do. So this has already been executed to create the LV, and obviously already formatted as well. Maybe we'll just take a look at the FS tab. You can see what's been put in here. Okay.
and files are mounted and software is there. So yeah, just to speed up the time. Exactly.
Yep. So there's the mount command there. We can double check.
You can DF, yeah.
So you should see something like this. And just for those who are not familiar with ASM, the ASM disks will never be visible in these Linux standard Linux commands.
Correct.
At the higher level, the LSBLK, you'll see the block device. Nothing more than that.
But basically, you can see them in detail from the Oracle as well, how it's configured, because it's striped by the Oracle and managed by the Oracle, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Goran, did you already create these? Or
No. So these are the files for the Oracle, yeah.
Yep.
Folders.
Now we come. This is the main part of the base ASM layer, and we need to wget and install these components. So if your machine doesn't have HTTP access, you might need to download these and copy the package. So you can see the wget downloaded. And very important, run this command. You don't see these two packages. Something's gone wrong, and best not to continue. And we need to set permissions on the next step. You can either go through an interactive mode, because I've done this many times before. I'm going to take the I've seen as people want to know, we'll go through an interactive mode. So it's Oracle install yes, then you could similarly run this command and do the same thing.
So Oracle is the username and install is the user group.
Correct.
Right.
And just for completeness, we will double check. So we do the ASM init. So we're running these commands at this stage as root. Later, it's pretty important that we run most of the commands and at least some of the patching as the Oracle user. Very important to use the correct user. Put quite a lot of emphasis in the blog on which user. Okay, it's all looking good.
Now the structure is a little bit different of the block-based devices than here, right?
What we'll do is we'll have ABCD for
Data.
Data. We'll have
ENF.
the remaining ENF.
Log.
Yeah,
Or log, and G, it's
redo an arc.
Redo an arc, yeah.
In a way, that's easy because we just do ABCD.
Yeah.
What I'll do, and it is possible to script this out and make this a bit cleaner, but go through. So SDA, and we'll say new primary to enter.
SDA
There we
one.
see. So there are some discussions about whether you actually need to create a petition. Can you get it to work without creating petitions? The answer is yes, but I strongly recommend to create a petition due to multiple other reasons that will take a while to go into. What I'm going to do here is copy this. And
You
put it
also
into,
need to adapt to SDABC as well, right? Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So now we create the ASM disks, and we have to change the disk device to A.
Okay.
Okay, all created. Just a word here. So we have data, SID, and the disk number. In this case, it's disk number 4. I would recommend maintaining this naming standard just because you could have multiple databases, and to clearly identify which group and which database. This naming standard just makes it easy. And as mentioned, this is consistent across the SDAF framework and this blog. Okay, next. Confirm we've got these. So for those who are new to ASM, you will not see these disks here. They're not visible. That Oracle and ASM tools can see them, but they're not a mounted file system that you can see with regular Linux tools.
So this Oracle ASM command, it's a command line tool from Oracle to manage it, right? From a command line. Yeah.
Correct. So Oracle ASM. Yeah. Okay. Now we come to more familiar activities for those people who are SAP basis consultants. I put a high-level process flow here. The Oracle installer uses, and the ASM tools use X11-based installation utility. So we need to have that installed. So before this call, Oran and I have set up this, and what I will actually do, because we did this before the Oracle users were created, I will
You need to star, I believe. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've already, to save time, I've already unzipped these. Oh, and there's the command. You can use 775. I used 777. Doesn't really matter. As part of the standard packages, I put into the script that we ran earlier. It should actually have done this step for you. And there's no need to restart SSH. What we can do is just go ahead and check that X auth minus list. So that's list. Yep. So I think most Linux admins will be familiar with don't see it.
Oh no. There it is.
You have it on the right.
It just took some time, right next to Notepad.
Here we go. So xclock is a little test utility. This checks that your x11 environment is appropriately configured. And there's another one, I think, called xeyes. Not sure if it's installed or not.
Should be.
They
There
you go. It can take a little while to start up. Okay. What we are doing in this step here is copying the xauthority file into the Oracle user because we're going to install as Oracle. So for those who are not familiar with x11, it puts a file for security purposes into here. You can see it at the end. Completed all of this. Now we install Grid. The installation of Grid is a little unusual for some people. What you're required to do is to go into the directory here and then unzip it into this directory and then run Grid setup. So we'll do that now. No, the path is not. Okay, it's in Aura. So
lower. Okay.
we run Aura, Linux, DB, Linux 64 Grid Home. Home,
Linux.
and then it should be Linux. Grid Home.
And that's the file. So autocomplete will not work. Now you can just use sudo unzip instead of cd.
Yep. We'll just double check it's in there. Yes, it is. We must execute this command from this directory here, so that these files are placed into this directory. Yes, you do.
No, yeah.
Okay. And there we see Grid Setup, which is one of the steps coming up. But first of all, we need to execute this command. Then set user group. And before running grid setup, it's critical to export these parameters here, otherwise it's not going to work. The patch we put on just before is to enable this. So it's assuming this is Oracle Linux 8.1. It's in fact a higher version. Grid setup. To do both of those. And very important, we have to log in as Oracle. Either you have to log in directly as the Oracle user, or you have to copy the export parameters. Su do su minus Oracle, and then we have to set the parameters and run grid setup. So important to realize we still haven't installed the main Oracle DBMS yet. We're still doing the grid infra and ASM. So we'll let that load, and in the screenshots attached to the blog, you get a detailed instruction on what values to enter for everything here. But grid infra goes to Oracle base, and home is grid 19. It's the main things to remember. Okay, and we're not doing rack. Rack for SAP is not supported. It is. We do have other non-SAP customers doing rack on Azure, but not for SAP.
I may just add for the public, you did the screenshots as attachment in the blog with this and many other steps.
Yeah,
also as a help. They're not visible, all of them, screens in the blog, but they are in the attachment.
Yeah, I think each and every screen has been attached. So redundancy, we're using external redundancy. There's just a bit of video delay on the screen. And as we said at the beginning, we will use A, B, C, and D for data. External redundancy means that the Azure backend storage is providing the redundancy and not ASM itself. So next on this, I always use the same password. And Oracle base is what should be used for grid, and the software location is here, the home. And accept the default for our inventory and root execution. So, and enter the password for root here. And it will validate the password when you press next. Yes, that passed. The swap file size warning, I think we can ignore because we set it to 20 gigabytes. So you can just click ignore.
The question is only, is it really swap set it? Did it pick it up?
I
Just a second.
think we might need to restart the VM for it to pick it up.
You
But,
did it. You did it. Swap is 0. I didn't pick up.
Okay, the installation of Grid is pretty quick. So this is the execution of the scripts as root. It just prompts to run them. Grid is now installed successfully, and we will run a couple of utilities and create the remaining groups. So the utility is in this directory here. You need to run it as the user Oracle. And again, this is a graphical utility. And it can take a little while to load if the machine you're running this on is some way away from the virtual machine.
Basically, you will set it up the DB compatibility mode for log and archive and redo right here.
Yeah, we must change it. The default is compatibility for Oracle 10, which is eventually a problem. So there's several ways of running ASM. There's what we use here, which is ASM lib. There's another method called udev. udev really doesn't apply to cloud deployments. udev you'd really only use if you had 2 SANs on-prem, so please use ASM lib. In the blog, I give an explanation on how and what the difference is with udev, and generally best not to use it. Okay, we need to edit, right-click and edit the attributes. A little slow loading. You can see total 4 terabyte with external redundancy, and it's mounted.
Yeah, so 4 times 1 terabyte, 4 terabyte.
And if we go to the blog, you'll see we change it to 19.0.0.0.0.
Yeah. So you will basically update this setting for the data disk and change the default one.
During the installation, it allows you to create one disk group. And so I chose to create data. Now we're going to create olog, reco, and arc. So we can see 19. So what I typically do is copy the top line and paste it into the bottom line. And it just gives you a warning that this is a one-way operation.
Okay.
And then we create a new group called olog. And again, we use external redundancy, meaning all of the protection is in the storage system. and show advanced options. And we paste in now we create reco. Again, external redundancy and compatibility 19.
19, yeah.
So if you don't use ASM lib, you may have to, depending on circumstances, specify a sector size and logical sector size. But we really want people to use ASM lib. And the final disk group is, again, external redundancies, ARC. Okay, well, that's saving. All right, next step is to, for the sake of this demonstration, we're doing a central install with the ASCS and an app server running on the same VM as Oracle. Really doesn't matter too much either way. What we will now do is install the ASCS with SWPM. SWPM's in this directory, and we will use the user, Azure user. Choose standard system type.
Or would it stop it, or you want just in ASCS? Distributed is everything, so maybe distributed, right? Okay.
We'll do the ASCS. For ASM and the database side, it really makes no difference whether you're standard, distributed, or high availability. So we will do typical so that we a little faster. SID is C11. Okay, so we have now finished the installation of the ASCS. Push OK and close SWPM. Exit. Okay, now we've finished the ASCS, we'll move on to installing the SAP Database instance with SWPM. As noted, we start the SAP installer here with these parameters, and we will see in detail how we configure all of this. So we go to SWPM. Okay, NetWeaver 7.5. The Oracle Database. Installation. ABAP. Distributed. And database instance. For ASM, we must choose custom. profiles are available. So although it is supported to have a different DB SID than SAP SID, we strongly recommend to keep them the same.
Yeah.
We must choose Oracle
ASM.
ASM here.
Yeah.
Single instance. RAC for SAP is not supported in Azure.
In Azure, yeah. No need to do it because it's already there, the latest version. Export 750, I believe. So this is important, right? Server and client version to set to 19.
And advanced DB configuration.
So now comes the interesting part, right, about this stop after step create DB for patch update, right?
So I receive a lot of feedback that if you try patching, that on SWPM 36, it leaves the grid instance in a state that SWPM cannot handle. So what we're going to do is apply the Oracle patches after the SWPM finishes. I make a note of this in the blog.
Yeah.
You'll see at the end here. So number one, do not do patching immediately after installing the DBMS. This always creates a problem. In theory, after the create DB phase, you're meant to be able to safely apply the patches, but I've got feedback with SWPM 36 that there's a problem. So what we're going to do during this demo is to apply the patches after SWPM has completely finished. So we will leave this unticked.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this will run basically till the end, till no stopping of no break during the database instance installation.
We will break to install Oracle, but apart from that, no other break. And the Oracle install is pretty quick. Okay, very important value here. So for those people who are not familiar with this, the value should be what you see here, Oracle 19.
0, okay.
And the name of the grid instance is plus ASM. And we have previously installed grid software.
You checked tick box Oracle Grid not installed. Maybe I want to go back. If I'm not wrong.
Okay, and we need to add on. We have already OLog here. Needs to be added on if it's not already there.
Yeah. Okay.
As we have 4 ASM disk groups: data, OLog, reco, and archive. So general storage. I think the only one we really need is general storage. So we could create database on.
And control files.
Yeah.
Okay.
So quite an important screen, this one. So this tells ASM which disk group your redo log should go to, and this tick box controls mirroring. So With ASM and with highly redundant storage like Oracle, like Azure storage, we probably don't need to mirror the redo log, though some customers out there with highly that need a very high level of resiliency may want to mirror. If you were mirroring, what we always recommend, whether you're mirroring or not, is putting the redo logs onto a separate disk group. And what you would probably do here is create another disk group, maybe called mlog. Most customers, it's not necessary. Do you get a higher resiliency? Yes, you do. Is there a cost in terms of additional I/O? Absolutely. So we find most customers are not using this when using ASM.
And so, that's why it's great now, because it's ticked off mirror. Yeah.
Correct. Okay. So this would be a pretty typical configuration, I would say. Set the defaults here. Got 64 CPUs, so I think we'll do a bit more than 3.
Okay, so now the DB installation started, right?
And it'll run for a minute or two, and then it will break and prompt for us to log in and start the Oracle Run installer.
Okay. Now let's wait for a second.
About here.
All right. Okay. Now.
So we have to follow the instructions, which I give in the blog. So now what we're going to do is edit the shell. These parameters in. We obviously have to log off. Now this should already be the case, but we'll run this again. So if during installation there are problems with permissions on the software directory, this command's very useful.
Yeah, that's I faced a few times. Yeah, so quite important.
So now we're going to sudo to the Oracle user and change directory to installation media. A slight difference here.
Ora. Okay, great. Now it works. Okay.
Yep, I faced.
Yeah, so that's a good tip if they face the issues with the Oracle installer and they need to restart it, basically, which we had faced different another with the GUI option. You need to use these parameters to ignore it, the previous one, right? That's a small tip, useful, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, it's good that it's starting.
Okay, and just to explain a bit more, the options are actually quite simple. Set up software only, Oracle base to C11, and all of the values that you should be using are actually documented in an OSS note. I think yes. So SAP maintain the parameters you should put in this note. So if there are any doubts, check this note number.
Yeah. Plus the screenshots are there as well, what you attached. Yeah.
Correct. So set up software only. And we're doing single instance, not rack. And obviously Enterprise Edition for SAP. And you can see it's automatically found the Oracle base.
Yeah.
Accept those defaults. And as with the grid installation, we install using the root password. If you don't have the root password, so some organizations there is no root password, then you can sudo as well. Okay, and the installation is very quick. Okay.
Super, done.
Finished. So after the step, as documented in the blog, when run installer finishes, press continue in SAPInst. And what we will do is let SAPInst run through to the very end, and then we will do the patching. Now the database installation is finished, we move on to installing Oracle patches. Very important to log in as the correct user. So we will sudo su-oracle. And as per the blog, we see patch level 17, which is correct. Again, in all of these commands, the user is specified because yeah, the user does change. So what we're doing here is a backup of the database instance C11.
So the previous version of OPatch bits.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now we copy the OPatch from the patch directory to the database instance. This command. And we will go in and confirm it's there with the correct permissions, because it's a common problem that the permissions are incorrect. So it's Oracle O install, which is correct. So now we'll verify that it's patched. This command. And it's 30. So that's worked well. Now we do essentially the same procedure for grid. So if there are any problems during patching, it's an easy way to resolve this is to set the permissions on the Oracle directory with the command that was given earlier, the changed and chown command. So as a user with sudo, which the Oracle user is not an SU doer, run this command here. Now we go back to the grid update.
Yeah, I was facing similar issues, permission denied during the copying because of the root. So resetting again to the Oracle user, it solves the issue. Yeah.
Yes.
Because
so,
you're copying as a user Oracle. Yeah.
Yes. So your Oracle here. So if any of these commands here fail, then resetting
Okay.
will correct this.
Fine. Cool.
So now we copy OPatch. We need to do that from this directory here. And as noted, you have to be the user Oracle and put it into the OPatch directory. So CP minus recursive, we're patching the grid instance this time.
Cool. Okay.
Cockpit. And we can actually, again, we can run the same command here. Why don't we do that? We'll go into grid, the OPatch, and we'll run OPatch space version just to verify. It should be version 30,
Okay. Yeah.
which is the same as the database instance C11.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Now we do the MOpatch update for the database instance, again as user Oracle. So this is the SAP bundle. We're going to copy that to the database instance C11. And then we do the same operation. Again, watch very carefully for the user. Each command I specified the user. We do exactly the same operation for the grid instance. And we run this command here. We need to make sure that this file is in this directory. So SAP 19P, SAP 19P is this one here. Okay, and this process will take quite a while, possibly 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, so patching has finished successfully. In the blog, I give some additional detail on how to check. So we should look at the inventory file. And this will confirm. So yeah, what we see here, it's C11, and grid is correct. So if you do not see this, there's been some kind of problem. You need to resolve that before continuing. So this is what we saw in our inventory file, which was all good.
Okay.
You shouldn't need to run this command here if everything's working normally. Now, because the grid instance is another Oracle instance, we need to, while logged in as the user Oracle, we need to set the environment.
Was it written with sudo user?
No,
Oh.
this is
Run as user with sudo access.
Yes, you're right. The grid needs the pre-patch must be run as a user with sudo. That is correct. Otherwise, it will not work correctly.
Yep.
So we export those parameters, change to this directory, and then as sudoer, we run this. So be very careful with this. It's a common mistake. Okay, finished.
Okay.
So we've finished the grid update pre-patch task. The pre-patch task has to be done as a user with sudo access, and you need to set the environment variables. We're now going to do the patching itself as user Oracle. Very important to have 3 files and to execute this as the user Oracle. So we'll change to this directory, and the 3 files that are required is the SGR, the JDK, and the GIRU. They all must have the same suffix, 2208 70004 550. They all must have identical suffix there, otherwise it's not going to work. Another step that's required is in the command here, I reference ohgrid. Just need to export that, or alternately fill out the entire path. We'll go ahead and do that. All right, we're ready to run the command. Okay, so the patching of the grid instance has finished successfully, and we have one more step to do with sudo access, and that is these steps here. So as a user with sudo, which is not Oracle. Oracle does not have sudo in this case. I'll just emphasize the point, those watching, and that's after this is the end of the patching, and we would then install an SAP application server. Just wait for this to finish. Maybe while we're waiting for that to finish, we have a quick look at Cockpit, which is the utility we showed earlier. And just to show that it's quite nicely recognized that these disks are Oracle ASM, and it also knows which of the disks belongs to which ASM disk group, which is quite a nice handy feature.
It's very useful. Yeah, I was just I liked you showed me, and basically what I understood, these kind of Cockpit is already pre-installed on this Oracle Linux box. However, they might need to add some Oracle patches needed for the storage, which is also kind of instructed inside of the Cockpit itself. I mean, you do have it here now. You did it, this part.
If you go to About, these are these are packages. So if you run DNF, IN, Cockpit, storage D. But the basic packages are installed when you. Okay, so our patching has been successful. But if you log in to Oracle Linux, you will see Web Console, That gives you the IP address and host name. So it's just port 9090. And some admins find a GUI useful, and some admins don't like it at all.
I like it.
Seems, yeah, some like it, some don't. But
I mean, what is challenging here a bit? You don't see those disks from the operating system, right? And that can be a bit confusing. Meaning, I mean, okay, you will show now how to see it through the Oracle, basically where they are. And we have also alternative here in the UI, which is great. I mean, it's another way to do it, and that's really nice.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's different tools for different people. So this is a useful tool. So we have successfully completed the installation. Next step would be install the app servers. I think most of the audience are experienced basis people, so there's no need to show this. I include additional documentation in the blog on various topics. Please use ASM lib. Do not use udev. I can't emphasize that enough. I give you a screenshot of the parameters in the OSS note to enter into the Oracle Run installer. Installing Oracle is never super straightforward. You do need to review quite a few SAP notes. I like to think that this blog is entirely compliant with all of these notes. For example, we discussed how you don't need to do redo log mirroring with ASM with a highly resilient storage system such as Azure Storage. Well, this SAP note documents that fact. So all of these notes here, I'd say take a look at them. It's well worth it. Couple of activities here we'll demo. I won't start and stop ASM, but this is the details on how to do it. But I will show the ASM CMD utility.
Yeah.
So we'll go to the Oracle user and export. There you can see, so we can CD data.
And that's valuable because these things, because this is the only way how you can see where the disk, because Oracle is mounting them and managing them. So you need to use the Oracle means to see them, manage them, not the operating system, which would be a typical use case for it.
It's invisible at the operating system. Right. As you can see, there's no logical volume as there would be with LVM for data, for example. So you can see all this stuff, and if you wanted to look at the SP file or whatever, but generally I don't think, unless there's something wrong with the system, I don't think you should have to use this too often if a system's healthy. Hopefully it would be healthy on Azure. Just exit out of there. IO calibrate. I'd recommend any customer run through this. It's quite an easy procedure, and just record what your throughput is. It should roughly line up with the advertised throughput for the virtual machine. Obviously, different virtual machines have different throughputs.
This is, I would say, it's super important part, because typically I would say when a customer goes to Azure, they use the managed disk, they stripe them to get certain size and performance, and they should do prior to anything some benchmark test, storage benchmark, like FIO test as an example, just to make sure, okay, they did everything right. Sometimes they will stripe wrong, the numbers are not there, right? Those FIO tests cannot be run on the operating system because the operating system doesn't see them, meaning we have to do through the Oracle. So They should do it here. Cameron, I believe people who are watching it, if they have interest to see a live demo, we could do a separate one. On it. Yeah.
We can do this. I think this video is already pretty long. One point here is if you run this script on an ASM system and then convert it with the same disks, same configuration, convert it to LVM, you should see that ASM is faster.
Right.
So
there's
cool.
That's
another
motivation
for ASM
to do it. Correct. Cool. This is good.
The final thing in the blog I documented, and another advantage of ASM is here we are adding another disk. So you add another disk from the Azure portal, you find the empty disk, format it, as we did earlier in the procedure. We obviously have to change the ownership on the disk. We can use this command, ASM list disks. So run that in here. See them there. And what we do here is add disk. And then what ASM will automatically do, you don't have to do anything, no activity. It will start progressively rebalancing the data evenly across disks. So
super, and that's also again a huge advantage over the LVM because you can actually do it on the LVM, right? So you would.
The only way is to copy all the data off and put the data back.
Right. So basically, create a new LVM, copy the data, right, which would then distribute it. Okay. So, which is quite task.
That's an offline operation.
Exactly.
This is fully online, and we have to be careful with the word online. So, this can run when a system's on peak load. And not impact the system. So it's truly online.
Okay, that's great. This is great. So again, I see, downtime is always a challenge, especially on a prod system. So having the ASM, this ability, expand the disk without the downtime. That's without the downtime for the database, meaning no downtime for the SAP system as well.
Yeah, there's no reason not to use ASM. And there's so many reasons to use ASM. I think the case should be clear. Every customer moving to Azure should move to ASM. And if anyone needs any help doing that, they know who to contact. Myself, yourself. There are lots of other people at Microsoft who can help.
Super. I think we came to an end. Content of this video probably will be the longest one we have so far, but I believe every minute is extremely valuable. Short summary, ASM is a must to use it really, and there is no brainer for the Oracle on Linux in Azure. Many benefits. I would say because I tried to this, if I had to do by myself, it will take me more than a month. I think it's a browsing through not just Azure, but also SAP documentation, SAP notes, links to Oracle notes. Not always ideally perfect. You are fully struggling really to get this end to end. So huge value. For our audience. They ask for it. One more tip. A small preview announcement. This was all the manual step, and some customer will do it. However, ideally is to automate the whole procedure, right? So I have approval actually to tell a little bit small announcement that SAP SDAF SAP Deployment Automation Framework, which is basically used officially, we have in our documentation to deploy not just the infrastructure but the whole SAP system, including the Oracle database on the Linux. It's going to support Azure ASM configuration. Exactly. So we have it there, Cameron. You are showing. So SAP on Azure Deployment Automation Framework is having the Oracle, but it's getting the support for the ASM. So basically, all of those millions of steps, and we did it during the even documented procedure mistakes, by copying paste, will be doable in an automated way, which is great. So I believe we would have definitely a separate session on this when it is published, and to demonstrate it. Important part is to have choice. Customer can do it either manually or in an automated way, and that's a great, depends on the scenario, right? Maybe so. All together, Cameron, thank you so much. Huge value, really. I mean, this is a great work. Any Oracle on not just Azure actually would benefit from the whole deep dive exec procedure, and I'm pretty sure many customers will be motivated when they run on Oracle, on Azure, on Linux, to use the ASM. Definitely, there's just the benefits there. Yeah. So thank you, Cameron, so much, and well, hope to see you again with some another content there, right, in the future.
Yep, you're welcome. Please use ASM and get in touch with us if you have any questions.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.